In the heart of Awari, a bustling city in southeastern Nigeria, lived the Adana sisters. They were twins, identical in every physical feature, from the curve of their noses to the dimples that appeared when they smiled. But while their faces were mirror images, their souls were as different as day and night. Adana was the elder by 5 minutes. She was a primary school teacher who believed that patience was the currency of a good life. She was the kind of woman who greeted the market sellers by name, who stayed late to tutor struggling students for free, and who wore her natural hair in neat, simple styles. Adana was the peace of the house. Then there was Ifunanya, known to everyone as Ifi. If Adana was the peace, Ifi was the noise. Ifi believed that labor was a disease and money was the only cure. She spent her days aggressively curating a fake life on social media, posing in front of hotels she didn't stay in and cars she didn't own. She was a slay queen whose kingdom was built on data bundles and filters. While Adana saved her salary to buy books, Ifi harangued their parents for the latest Peruvian wigs and acrylic nails so long she couldn't hold a broom. The sisters were identical to the eye. If they stood frozen, you could not tell them apart. But the moment they moved, the illusion broke. Adana moved with grace, Ifi moved with calculation. Adana spoke with kindness, Ifi spoke with volume. The trouble began when Adana met a man named Obina on a Christian dating website. Obina was a Nigerian agricultural engineer living in Canada. He was a man of few words, deeply religious, and looking for a wife who valued substance over shadows. He had been burned before by women who only saw him as a wallet, so when he met Adana, he was cautious. They spoke for 8 months. They didn't talk about bank alerts or designer bags. They talked about faith, about the books Adana read to her students, and about Obina's love for nature. Adana fell for his gentle spirit, and Obina fell for her humility. Ifi, naturally, was disgusted. She would eavesdrop on their calls, rolling her eyes. "I don't know why you are wasting your time with this farmer," Ifi would hiss, watching Adana video chat on her cracked screen. "He has been talking to you for 8 months and he hasn't even sent you money for a new phone? He is video calling you while you are wearing that old Ankara. You are disgracing the family brand. If it were me, I would have billed him for a bone-straight wig and a trip to Dubai by now." "Obina is a good man," Adana would reply softly. "We are building a foundation, Ifi. Not everything is about money." "Foundation does not pay for contour kits," Ifi scoffed. "You are holding a lottery ticket and using it to bookmark a Bible." But Ifi did not realize the value of that ticket until the package arrived. It was a humid Thursday when the courier bike pulled up to their gate. The rider handed a thick, sealed envelope to Adana. Ifi watched from the window, her eyes narrowing like a cat spotting a mouse. Adana opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside lay a passport with a fresh visa, a first-class flight ticket, and a handwritten letter. "He has done it," Adana whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Obina has arranged everything. The spousal visa is approved. The flight is for this Saturday. He wants me to come home." "Saturday? That is in 2 days." Ifi snatched the ticket from her sister's hand. "Canada? Business class. Do you know how much this costs? Adana, you are going to the white man's land." "He lives in a quiet area," Adana said, beaming. "He says the air is clean and the stars are bright. I cannot wait to be his wife." Ifi looked at the passport photo. Because they were identical, the image of Adana looked exactly like Ifi. A seed of envy, dark and thorny, sprouted instantly in Ifi's heart. She thought to herself, why should Adana, who has no style and no ambition, go to enjoy the snowy luxury of Canada? Adana would just go there and be boring. I am the one made for the international stage. I am the one who knows how to dress for winter fashion. I am the one who deserves the dollars. "Congratulations, sister," Ifi said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We must celebrate. Tonight, I will handle dinner. You need to pack and rest for your big journey." "Thank you, Ifi," Adana said, touched. "That is very sweet of you." If only she knew that the sweetness was poison. That evening, Ify bought roasted chicken and plantain. She also prepared Adana's favorite malt drink, but into Adana's glass, Ify crushed 3 potent sleeping pills she had obtained from a local chemist. "Drink, sister," Ify said, raising her own glass, "to your new life abroad, to the Eze family name." "To us," Adana smiled, and she drank. 40 minutes later, Adana was unconscious on the living room sofa. Ify wasted no time. She dragged her sister's limp body into the small storage room beneath the stairs, a dusty space filled with old generator parts and sacks of charcoal. She laid Adana on a mat, placed a bottle of water and a loaf of bread beside her, and locked the heavy padlock from the outside. Then the transformation began. Ify went to Adana's room. She packed the suitcase Adana had carefully prepared. She took the passport, the ticket, and the engagement ring Obina had sent. She stood before the mirror and wiped off her heavy layers of makeup. She removed her false lashes. She took off her expensive wig and tied her natural hair back in a modest bun, just like Adana. She put on one of Adana's simple, modest dresses. She looked at her reflection. "Mirror, mirror on the wall," she whispered, "who is the new Mrs. Obina? It is me." The next morning, Ify told their parents a lie. She said Ify had gone to stay with a friend in Port Harcourt for a few days because she was too jealous to watch Adana leave. The parents, used to Ify's dramatic tantrums, believed the story. They hugged the imposter, blessed her, and sent her to the airport. "Go well, my daughter," her mother said. "Be a good wife to Obina." "I will, Mama," Ify said, lowering her eyes shyly. "I will enjoy him very well." The journey was long, but Ify felt like she was floating. She drank champagne in business class. She took selfies she couldn't post yet. She dreamed of the shopping sprees, the high-rise apartments, the Toronto skyline. She didn't bother to check the final destination code on the ticket, YXY. She just saw Canada and assumed luxury. She had a layover in Frankfurt, then a long flight across the Atlantic, and finally a connection to a smaller plane. As they flew northwest, the green earth turned white, endless, blinding white. Ify smiled. Snow, the aesthetic of wealth. But when the plane landed, Ify looked out the window. There was no CN Tower. There were no glass skyscrapers. There were only trees, mountains, and snow. They had landed in Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory. Ify stepped out of the airport, pushing her luggage trolley with the air of a duchess. The automatic doors slid open, and the cold did not just greet her, it assaulted her. It was a dry, violent freeze that went through her coat and settled in her bones. She gasped, her teeth instantly chattering. She scanned the crowd for a limousine or a Mercedes. Instead, she saw him, Obina. He was not wearing a tailored suit. He was dressed like a lumberjack who had just fought a bear. He wore a massive, puffy parka, thick, waterproof trousers, and heavy boots caked in mud. His beard was thick and unkempt. "Adana!" Obina shouted, his face breaking into a genuine, radiant smile. He rushed forward. Ify wanted to run back into the terminal, but Obina engulfed her in a bear hug. He smelled of pine needles, wood smoke, and hard work.
"My love, you are here," he whispered into her ear. He pulled back and looked at her. "Why are you shaking?" "Ah, I told you to bring the thermal gears in your hand luggage. It is -20 degrees today. A warm day." "-20?" Ify squeaked. "Where is the car? Turn on the heater, please." "The truck is right here. Welcome to the Yukon, my treasure." The car was a battered, heavy-duty pickup truck with a cracked windshield. Ify climbed into the high passenger seat, her heart sinking into her stomach. As they drove away from the small town, the street lights vanished. They plunged into a forest that seemed to have no end. Obina, where are the malls, the restaurants? Oh, the town is for tourists and supply runs, Obina laughed. We are going home. The homestead is another hour north. Just us, the silence, and God's creation. Homestead? Ify asked, her voice trembling. Yes, I told you, didn't I? When we spoke last month, you said you couldn't wait to help me with the greenhouse during the winter. You said the city noise in Awari gave you migraines and you craved silence. Yes, Ify stammered. Yes, I just... jet lag. When they finally arrived at the cabin, Ify realized that her village people had surely followed her to Canada. The cabin was made of logs. It was sturdy and beautiful in a rustic way, but it was isolated, no neighbors for miles. Inside, it was warm thanks to a roaring wood stove, but the furniture was simple. Hand-carved chairs, bookshelves filled with agricultural manuals, and rugs made of animal fur. I have a surprise, Obina said, eyes twinkling. Thank God, Ify thought. Finally, the diamond necklace. The solar panels need clearing and the wood supply is low, Obina said happily. Tomorrow morning we can walk together. I know how much you wanted to learn about off-grid living. It will be our first bonding activity. Ify stared at him. She looked at her manicured hands. Bonding activity? She whispered weakly. The next few days were not a honeymoon. They were a survival boot camp. Obina was a kind man, but he was a workaholic. At 5 a.m., he was up for morning devotion. Adana, wake up, he would knock gently. Time to praise the Lord. Ify, who usually woke up at noon, groaned and pulled the duvet over her head. Can we pray in our hearts? God sees the heart. We pray together on our knees, Obina insisted gently. Ify knelt on the hardwood floor, her knees screaming, while Obina prayed with fire and intensity for 40 minutes. She dozed off twice. Then came the chores. Shoveling snow was not exercise, it was torture. Her back ached, her skin dried out. She broke 3 nails in the first hour. But the final straw, the moment the camel's back broke, was the soup incident. It was Thursday evening. Obina came in from the cold, stamping snow off his boots. My love, he said, rubbing his hands, I have been craving your cooking. I haven't eaten a proper Nigerian meal in 2 years. Please, make that your special ofensala, the white soup with the fresh catfish. You told me your grandmother taught you the secret recipe. Ify froze. She didn't know how to cook ofensala. She barely knew how to boil rice without it becoming a singular block of starch, but she couldn't say no. Not this deep in the lie. No problem, baby, she said, her voice shaking. She went to the kitchen. Obina had stocked it with expensive imported ingredients. She saw the dried fish, the yam, the utazi leaves. She stared at the pot. How hard can it be? Soup is soup. Put water, put fish, put salt. And that is exactly what she did. She didn't peel the yam properly to use as a thickener. She threw the dried fish in without washing it. She dumped a handful of utazi leaves in, making it incredibly bitter. She added 3 tablespoons of salt because she thought the white color meant it needed flavor. She boiled it for 20 minutes and turned off the heat. Dinner is served, Ify announced, carrying the bowl to the table.
Obina sat down, ready to feast. He looked into the bowl. The soup was watery and gray. A whole, unwashed fish head stared back at him. He slowly dipped his spoon in and tasted it. He froze. The saltiness was enough to preserve a mummy. The bitterness made his eyes water. He swallowed hard, then looked at Ify. Adana, he said slowly, you told me you cook for the church harvest every year. You told me cooking is your love language. I am adapting to the Canadian water, Ify lied quickly. It changes the chemistry of the spices. Why are you complaining? Do you know how hard I slaved over that stove? Obina stood up. The warmth in his eyes was gone.
replaced by a sharp, analytical gaze. You don't know how to cook. You are terrified of the snow. You don't know the lyrics to the hymns we sang on video calls for months. Yesterday, you asked me where the television was, even though Adana and I discussed for hours that we don't own a TV. He walked around the table and stopped right behind her. And, he continued, his voice dropping to a whisper, Adana has a small scar on her left earlobe from an earring infection when she was a child. I saw it on the video calls many times. Your ears are perfect. Ify stood up, her heart hammering against her ribs. People heal, Obina. Miracles happen. Who are you? Obina asked. The question hung in the cold air. Just as Ify opened her mouth to lie again, Obina's laptop on the desk chimed. It was a Skype notification. Obina walked over and opened it. It seems the real Adana has finally managed to break down a door, he said. He turned the screen toward Ify. It was a video message. Adana was sitting in a police station in Awari, looking disheveled, holding a newspaper with today's date. Obina, Adana said in the video, her voice raspy, if the woman with you looks like me, she is my sister, Ifunanya. She drugged me and locked me in the store. A neighbor heard me screaming after 2 days and broke the lock. She is an imposter. Please, be careful. Ify's legs gave way. She collapsed onto the chair. You locked your sister in a store for a visa? Obina asked, looking at her with a mixture of disgust and pity. It wasn't like that, Ify cried, tears streaming down her face. I just wanted a better life. Look at me, Obina. I'm beautiful. I'm finer than her. I can learn to like the snow. I can learn to cook. Don't send me back, please. My friends will laugh at me. I sold my phone to buy winter boots. You think this is about beauty? You think this is about cooking? Obina shook his head. You thought you were stealing a golden ticket, but you didn't know the full story. Do you know why I live here? Do you know why I'm in the middle of nowhere? Because you are a farmer? Because I am hiding, Obina said. I come from the Okonkwo family in Lagos. Ify gasped. The Okonkwos were billionaires. They owned oil rigs, telecommunications, and half of the real estate on the island. I hated the fake life. I hated women who only wanted me for my surname. I hated the slay queens who couldn't hold a conversation about anything other than trips to Dubai. So I came here to find peace, to find a woman who would love Obina the man, not Obina the heir. Adana passed every test. She loved me when she thought I was a struggling farmer. And you? It took you 3 days to show me that you are everything I ran away from. Obina, please, Ify begged, falling to her knees. I can change, I promise. You will change, Obina said coldly. You will change your location. Are you calling the police? Please, Canadian prison will kill me. I am not calling the police. That is too easy. I am sending you back to the very people you tried to impress. The journey back was a blur of misery. Obina did not drive her to the airport. He hired a silent taxi driver. He bought her a ticket, but not business class. It was the cheapest economy seat with 3 layovers: Seattle, London, Addis Ababa, then Lagos. 2 days later, Ify arrived in Awari. She looked like a madwoman. She was still wearing the thick winter coat because she had no other clothes, sweating profusely in the Nigerian heat. Her makeup was smeared. She didn't have money for a taxi. She had to beg a truck driver to drop her at her junction. As she walked down the street leading to their compound, the sweat poured off her like rain. The local market women saw her first. Is that not Ify? Why is she wearing a duvet in this heat? I thought she went to Canada to marry a billionaire. The mockery followed her like a shadow. Welcome from abroad, a motorbike rider shouted. Where is the snow? Did you bring it in your pocket? Ify kept her head down, the heat roasting her skin, the shame roasting her soul. When she entered the compound, she saw them. Her parents were sitting on the veranda, looking stern. And sitting between them, looking healthy and radiant, was Adana. Beside Adana sat a man in a sharp suit. He looked expensive. Ify collapsed on the dusty ground. Mama, Papa, Sister, I'm sorry. Don't call me sister, Adana said quietly. A sister does not drug her blood. A sister does not lock her twin in darkness. The man in the suit stood up. I am Barrister Tunde, Dr. Obina's legal representative in Nigeria. I have instructions to press charges for kidnapping, identity theft, and fraud. No, Ify screamed. Papa, beg them. You wanted a soft life, the lawyer said. In jail, they provide free food and accommodation. Is that not soft? Adana stood up and placed a hand on the lawyer's arm. Wait. She walked over to her sweating, weeping sister. The resemblance was striking, but the difference was clear. One was gold, the other was gold-plated lead. I will ask Obina not to press charges, Adana said. Thank you, Adana. On one condition, Adana continued, her voice hard. You will work. You will pay back every kobo of the flight ticket Obina wasted on you. You will work in the school, cleaning classrooms and scrubbing floors until the debt is paid. Ify looked at her soft, manicured hands. Cleaning? But I'm an influencer. Then influence the floor to be clean, Adana said, turning away. 3 weeks later, a sleek black SUV rolled into the compound. The neighborhood held its breath. Obina stepped out. He wasn't wearing the parka or the muddy boots. He was wearing a white, crisp senator suit. He looked like the billionaire heir he truly was. He walked past the side of the house where Ify was sweating, scrubbing a stained rug with a hard brush. She looked up, her eyes wide with regret. Obina didn't even pause. He didn't see her. To him, she was just part of the scenery. He walked straight to Adana, who was waiting on the porch. I'm sorry it took so long, Obina said, taking her hands. I had to arrange things. I'm moving back to Nigeria for part of the year. I've been offered a position to lead the National Agricultural Research Center in Abuja. We won't be in the cold all the time. Adana smiled, a smile that outshone the sun. Welcome home, Obina. They were married in a grand ceremony a month later. Ify was there, but she was not on the bridal train. She was at the back, wearing a simple uniform, serving food to the guests. And every time someone asked her for more rice or water, she served them with a humble head, remembering that what belongs to you will never pass you by, and what you tried to take by force will only burn your hands.